Hey there, comic book friends, I'm Travis, and this is another edition of Note Capes, where I talk about comic books that don't have to do with superheroes, or Ethan doesn't read them, or doesn't review them along with me. First up, we're going to talk about Abe Sapien, issue number 4. And Ethan's giving me dirty looks, because this is actually a book he does read.
I give it a 4.
Ethan gives it a 4. I don't rate my Note Cape books, but that's okay.
Well, I do. I do.
At any rate, this issue is kind of a standalone story, not part of the last arc. I don't know where it'll go. Let me clear off there. Great issue though. It kind of addresses, got this world apocalypse going on around him questioning his own existence, trying to go back to some of the origins to try and follow to see. Because kind of this thought's been put into his head that maybe he is the next man. He is the evolution. He is the moving forward of everything. He is what's going to take over the world at some point. Him and his kind. The frog people, the fish people, whatever you want to call them. So he's in California where one of these giant monsters has been slowly sliding along and putting out these eggs. He meets some young adults who have traveled to one of these things. We get to hear their stories about how this is kind of an awakening for them. They're here more on a pilgrimage, more of a religious kind of a thing. It's quite strange as far as I personally I can't imagine envisioning this as not just being an apocalypse as opposed to a good thing, but they're kind of seeing it as being a the potential beginning of something, which obviously it is, but nothing good in my opinion. But so it's interesting. You get some conflict there. One of the people does not like any of this, thinks it's all bad, thinks that Abe Sapien is evil through and through. At some point, pulls a knife on Abe. There is a little bit of a fight in this, but really interesting. Just kind of looking more at the questioning of all of this and what it would be like to be these people in this world with this horrible stuff going on. And what is it like for Abe, who isn't quite sure anymore what he thinks of himself and where his place is. He wants to believe he's just a man, and he's there to help fix the problem, not be part of the problem. But there is this kind of wiggling worm in the back of his head of that maybe he is part of it, and that he needs to figure that out. Great soul-searching kind of a story. Great piece of the Hellboy Magnola universe, and really quite enjoying it. I'm glad they decided to make this an ongoing, because Abe is a cool character, and I'm digging it. Yeah. Next, I'm going to talk about Satellite Sam, issue number 1. This is written by Matt Fraction, art by Howard Chaykin. It is all black and white. I talked a little about this on the comic book roundtable. Not 100% sure what I think of this book. I think this issue was a lot of setup. We get a lot of TV jargon at the very beginning of it, which to me felt somewhat confusing. We get the exposure to a murder scene where this character, Satellite Sam, has been killed. He was supposed to show up to be on set. He doesn't. A secretary goes to find him and finds him dead in his room. We don't actually see him dead there, but we do see the outline of where his body was at during the crime scene. The son gets forced to take over, playing the same role as his father on television. He goes to the place where the dad was murdered. It's some kind of apartment that he didn't know his dad had, but obviously people from the studio knew he had it because they knew where to find him at. Littered across the room is all kinds of sex toys and stuff like that. This is set in 1957, 54, somewhere around in there. And he also finds these small boxes, like small shoe boxes, completely full of pictures of lots of women in lingerie. You can get the impression maybe he knows all these people or whatever. I don't know if the story is going to be about him investigating how his dad died or who killed his dad. If we're going to, how much more TV stuff we're going to have in the book, I don't know. I believe this is a mini series. I want to say it's 6 issues. I don't know that for sure. Can't remember. Haven't looked it up. So I'm on board for now just to see what the next issue's like out of curiosity. This wasn't a riveting issue for me. I did like it, but it wasn't riveting. And there are lots of Image books coming out now. So I'm having to make some choices as to what I'm going to get and what I'm not going to get. It was, like I said, it was interesting, but not completely riveting. I love this cover. It felt like it had, some story plots of things I've read before or heard about before, but not in a bad way. And now I'm drawing a blank on what those exactly are, so I'm choosing not to talk about that because I just will have a bunch of that guy instead of actual names, so never mind on that. But yeah, an okay issue. If you like, the art is pure Howard Chicken art. You like his work, you'll like this. It's got all the workings and trappings of his style in there. Yeah, I don't know. It was an okay book. I'm curious to see what next is. I'm curious to see what the book's actually going to be about, what the story is. How much more TV stuff? Because the TV stuff, they talk about the FCC in it and about fighting for more airspace, the people who are running the Satellite Sam TV show and that kind of stuff. I'm curious to see if that leads into more story or not. I talked with John from DaCosta DC Comics. He felt like that really wasn't going to be what the story was about. The story was going to be about, now is going to be more about this whole, his dad, Satellite Sam, the character, how he died, what his life was like, and that sort of thing. So, curious to see what that's going to be. Next is Suicide Risk. This was a mistake. This shouldn't be in this pile. It should have been in the pile of regular comics because it is a superhero book. It's not a No Capes book, so I'm going to talk about it here because I've already done my regular books, and so yeah, I don't want to not talk about this book. Boom Studio, their superhero book, really interesting. As I've said before, it's not going the direction I thought it was going to go, but I'm still really liking it. Our policeman has these powers. He's hunting people down. He's having some moral struggles with some choices he made in the prior issues. He took care of one of the supervillains, but in the process of that, somebody was caught in the crossfire and was hurt. So he's a bit disturbed by the collateral damage of that. But he's hunting these other people down. We get introduced to this character called the Alchemist, who's really creepy. He creates drugs for whatever people's needs are and whatnot. And it's really not a drug. He changes their emotions and their feelings about things, conditions them to be certain ways. Very frightening if you think about it, because he's there and it happens if he wants it to happen. So I don't know how you deal with him and whatnot. He messes with some cops that were questioning him too much. The two of our supervillains show up. The woman who sucks the life out of people and turns them into dust. She shows up with one of the Bruiser guys in this Grudge, the Grudge or Grudge Fight or whatever his name is. They are kind of friends because she's a schizophrenic. She needs him to continue to adjust her. She gets in a panic, kills one of his dogs, which pisses him off, and so then he kind of takes control of these two villains. Our policeman shows up. It's going to be a major conflict. And then one of the villains shows up. One of the other villains who used to be a hero, pretty powerful Wonder Woman type character, shows up. They know this guy, and they actually call him by another name. So our main character doesn't know that he had superpowers or that he was a super somebody, but some of these key heavyweight player villains know who he is. We've had hints along the way that he was something special. Here they actually call him another name at the end of this book, leaving this really big bombshell at the very end of the book. This woman has kind of subdued him and go, oh yeah, you don't know what you're up to. And he names him this name, but here I am, kind of a thing. And so really curious. Very interesting book. Of course, written by Mike Carey, does Unwritten and some other pretty significant books. So I'm on board. It's really interesting. It's entertaining. It's not like knock my socks off, wow, but it's just really kind of cool and interesting book to read along to see where it's going to go. There's going to be there's surprises, obviously, and I'm interested in those surprises. So I'm on board with that Boom Studio superhero book. Finally, this time we're going to talk a little more 10 grand. I'm still really enjoying this book. I loved Ben Temple-Smith's art. So that's a big boon right there. I'm always suspect to J. Michael Straczynski's writing. I'm liking this though. He's telling us a full story. Doesn't feel like he's phoning any part of it in. We get more of him investigating into the occult stuff and what's going on. We get some more heaven and hell action going on in this thing. By the end of it, his dead wife, who we kind of suspect is in heaven, has been snatched, and she's obviously not in heaven now. So we're curious to see where this thing lands. This was issue 3. I believe this is 6 issues. Then they'll take a break, reassess where they're going to go from there, and move on. More interesting back matter in this one is J. Michael Straczynski is talking about some of the books that are going to be coming out. So like there's going to be some more awesome books coming down the road from him and other artists under this line of which is Joe's Comics under the Image imprint. So yeah, still really thinking this is a cool book. I know people have been kind of comparing it to like a Hellblazer type story. I guess it's that in the sense that, you know, our main character smokes and he deals with demonic type things that he is fighting. Beyond that, the characters aren't alike hardly at all. But still, if you like that vein of book, this is probably a book you'd enjoy. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's pretty cool. And that is it for No Capes. Only a few this week. I'll be back next week with some more books. Take it easy, everybody.